I'm proud to announce that today's sponsor is none other than Rotor Riot themselves, the company for which Chad Nowak flew for quite a while. You can use the discount code ROTORROLLINS in order to get 10% off any Hype Train motor purchase. Use it. Love it. Go get yourself some motors. I know that I did. And to tell you about your motors today, let's listen to Johnny. Johnny, tell us about what today's motor is.
The Rotor Riot Hype Train Freestyle motor was the first official product designed by Rotor Riot team members, including Chad Nowak. The motor now features the second generation Hype Train bell, which is made from aircraft grade 7075 aluminum and has been reinforced, taking durability to the next level. The Hype Train Freestyle is sure to stand out with the customized orange colored stator and silver coated windings, altogether a fusion of great design and technology. As far as performance, the Hype Train Freestyle motor is built with the 2306 stator, which makes the motor very powerful and smooth, and gives it more responsiveness in the lower end of the throttle curve. Every aspect of the motor has been designed to achieve optimal efficiency, and the windings have been specified to produce a balanced 2450 kV, which makes the Hype Train Freestyle suitable for a wide variety of propeller and battery combinations. As with all Hype Train motors, the open bottom base optimizes the flow of air through the stator to prevent overheating, and also saves weight by removing excess material. The revolutionary 16 by 16 millimeter mounting screw pattern, originally introduced with the Hype Train Freestyle motors, opens up new design possibilities while still maintaining backward compatibility with legacy frames. Moreover, the bell is held in place with a small screw rather than a C-clip, enabling easy bell replacements.
Somewhere around the end of 2015 and the beginning of 2016, Chad Nowak, also known as Finalglideaus, walked into his boss's office, laid a letter on his desk, and quit his job of 18 years. He would then go on to become one of the founding cast members of Rotor Riot. The rest is history, but you get to hear that history from his perspective.
I think that it does, and I think there's a really interesting aspect that goes through it that I would love to talk to you about, which is you kind of touched on your mental health several times. You know, the number one, the job that you hated, the fact that you did take this huge risk because you pretty much had reached the end of something, which was your current life at that time. How, like, when you went into Rotor Riot, how healthy were you mentally, and was there a build-up or a tear-down in that mental health as you started into the beginnings of Rotor Riot?
Going into it, I think I had actually a really good mental health state. So at the end of my 2 months long service leave, I walked into my old boss's office, put a letter down, said I quit, and walked out. And it was probably the most uplifting feeling that I'd had. Scary but uplifting.
Sure.
Because like you're in this world that you hate, you despise, and you feel like there is no way out. And the moment that you actually do it, you're like, I've actually done it. You've got the scary nature of, oh crap, what do I do now?
But there's freedom.
But there's freedom. And I went home, and that night I had a big bonfire at the back, and I've still got photos of it. I got all of my work clothes and I burnt them. And I never really had, in the early stages after that, I never really had any mental health issues or worries about my future after that, because I was literally like, okay, I'm starting again. I've still got all of these things. I've still got to look after my kids. I've still got property that I'm paying off and things like that. So I've got some financial things. But okay, I can't physically tell you how I'm going to pay for that in the future. I'll work on it, but there's no point in worrying about something that you can't fix. So put it over to one side. Let's work on trying to fix it. And I literally said to myself, let's see what happens. Let's go and do this thing. As I called it, it's my midlife crisis that was mostly paid for. Most guys, when they have a midlife crisis, they quit their job, they sell the family minivan, and they go and buy a Corvette or something like that. I got to have my midlife crisis, but everything was paid for. It was great. But yeah, when I left, I was literally like, worst case, try this for 12 months. I come home completely broke, but I've had an amazing experience, and maybe I found myself. So it's a perspective thing. I just looked at it, and that way, and it was perfectly fine. And the biggest thing that I had to deal with was going from someone who is pretty much as soon as you left high school, having that same check come in the mail every single week, to now nothing. Now you've got to find it. Not only that, you can't go and apply for a job because you're living in a country under a holiday visa, of which you technically couldn't work. So there was lots of strings that had to be pulled to be enabled to me to just survive, and I had to learn to survive on nothing. So yeah, I got my quad parts and lots of stuff paid for. So that was pretty much all paid for from the beginning. But I didn't get anything else. I couldn't afford to get a taxi cab to go and meet my friends, and I couldn't afford to hire a car or anything like that. And I just had to take the kindness of other people, of places to live and things like that, wherever I went, because, yeah, okay, cool, I got 20 grand in the bank, but that's got to last me to an undisclosed amount of time,
right?
To pay bills and things like that at home. So what it taught me that you don't actually need much money to be happy. You need a certain amount of money to pay the essentials. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about a 100-inch flat screen TV in your living room. I'm talking about food and making sure that your family is healthy and things like that. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I've taken away from that, where in my previous job, I'd work 70 to 75 hours a week, and then on the weekend spend every single spare cent I had to do something that I enjoyed, so that I'd forget about doing what I did for 5 to 6 days a week or even 7 days a week, what I hated doing. It was this terrible cycle where I'm like, wow, get rid of that and I can do something I'm a bit passionate about. The pay's crap, but I can actually, I'm happy. If I just put my sights to where I can actually afford to live. So that's a big thing about that. So yeah, early on it wasn't an issue. It was just after, when you start getting to 2 years on and you're still not making money, you're still not getting paid, you're still just keeping your head above water. You have to start asking yourself, okay, let's be realistic here. Maybe this isn't the answer.
Were you ever able to get that work visa? Did you ever manage to get to the point where you could earn a living?
So this is something that Chad Kappa worked on, and he worked on pretty hard on it, and he put probably about 10 grand of the company's money into that. I ended up getting it. It took 18 months.
Oh, man.
And I got the work visa. By the time I got the work visa, Lauren International had sold Rotor Riot to Chad Kappa. Yeah. So the company itself, the whole preface of the company had changed. When I first joined Rotor Riot, we had a big company with a decent cash backing behind it, and there were lots of job opportunities and things like that I could go into, but I just couldn't do it legally. Tommy actually got the first job. He actually got the first job purely because I couldn't accept it. And I remember having a conversation with Tommy where he's like, dude, I feel really crap that I'm taking your position or taking the first job. I'm like, take it, dude. I can't take it anyway. I'd rather see you happy. And after 18 months, of course, Chad Kappa had taken rights of Rotor Riot. The amount of money that was available to the company was a lot less. I could see that Chad Kappa was really stressed. But I could also see that he was trying to come good with his promises of, I'll get you a job. And then we got into arguments of like, I'll get you a job. I'm going, where? I was like, I don't want you to give me a job just because you said you're going to give me a job. That doesn't work out long term. But we won't get into that. But yeah, 18 months it took to get the work visa. Finally got the work visa. A lot of work on Chad Kappa's end, a decent amount of work on my end, lots of flights because getting to the American embassy is not easy here in Australia, flights and so forth. Finally got it all done, paid all the fees on my end. Then 2 months later went for a trip over to Switzerland, and my computer bag got stolen along with my passport. So go and get an emergency passport, come back to Australia, contact the American embassy, and they said, you're pretty much going to have to start again.
Oh my God.
It
I,
was
I
it was at that point that I just went for the pain that's already gone through.
mhm.
It's not worth it, because it was at that time that it was becoming obvious that there wasn't a full-time employment position for me in Rotor Riot, and things were starting to get sour between me and Chad Kappa, and I just went, I can't do that anymore.
Mhm.
And so I just never renewed I could have, it would have taken me a couple of months to do, so I could have renewed it on my end, but I just I was just like,
Yeah.
after that long, getting to 2 years, I was just like, no, you know what, I'm done. I, I can't do this.
So what at that point, where give me like set me the because I actually remember there was a GoFundMe that was set up for you at that point. I actually contributed to it because I heard the story and
Thank you.
felt like it was pretty tragic from what I had heard. I didn't know this aspect of it, which really puts it into a lot of perspective.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, there's the money side. Like there was an expensive laptop, expensive earphones, all these other things inside the bag. I didn't care about them. What I
right.
lost, and this is my own fault for not backing it up, but I'd lost my first half of my FPV journey, which was on my computer. I'd
Mm-hmm.
lost my passport. I'd lost so much, and the thing that really got me down was all these negative comments, like the usual hype crap that goes on, like all this hate that happens in the community for no reason. And I'm like, I don't care about the money. It's the important stuff that I've lost. And I'm not so self-righteous that I'm not going to take money. Like I'm too stubborn. I'm never going to ask for money in that situation. It
Mm-hmm.
happened to me. It's no one else's problem. And my girlfriend at the time, Kathleen, set up the GoFundMe, and I literally was blown away by the response. It really warmed my heart to see those silent people. Like you normally only hear the negative Nancy's, the vocal
Right.
negative people
Yes.
on social media. They're the ones that we hear. It's so much easier to hear that. So to get that kind of a response from the people that are normally quiet, wanting to support you, that was actually an emotional time for me, and I still get emotional thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. What so take me from that time period. You're back in Australia, I take it. We're talking 2017 at this point.
Around about that year.
Okay. And what happens next? Where do you go from there? Is that when things went poorly, or
Yeah, it's like so many things. It's so many different things coming from so many angles. Some of it's the doing of other people. Some of it's doing it of yourself. Some of it's choices. Some of it's good choices that you've made. Some of it's bad choices you made. It's never black or white or one of the other things. Like
sure.
no one's perfect, all that sort of stuff. I always try to put that out there when I talk about this stuff, because if you talk badly about anything or anyone, they were terrible and
Right.
I'm perfect. It's not like that. I started seeing, and I don't know the exact time. It would have been around 2017. I think the first time that it happened, I remember, was the Chernobyl trip. Went over there with all the guys, and I sat down with Tony Cake of Immersion RC, and we had a long heart-to-heart. And we came to a realization. And Tony, I remember, word for word, this is what he said. He goes, "This is the most amazing trip we've ever done. And I've been on some amazing trips with you guys. But what worries me is, what do we do next?"
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, and you'll see it with YouTube channels, especially the ones where it's all hype or they're extreme things onto stuff. You've always got to go to the next level. You've always got to do something more extreme. There's a point in time where you either can't go extreme, or safety becomes a problem, or it just becomes plain stupid, or you just can't top it. And we started talking about what do we do next? And I was looking at the whole racing scene, where all these racing organizations, instead of working together, were just constantly fighting. And that's why I left the whole racing scene, because I was sick and tired of being their puppet. of like, we're the best, and when Formula One buys us out, we're gonna retire rich and all that sort of stuff. And every racing organization that I got into, with the exception to a degree of MultiGP, had that attitude. And I was like, I'm sick of that. It's not about that. And so I got out of the whole racing scene, and I saw, because I was part of when it was such a big craze, and like all the big national TV stations, they wanted to interview the top pilots. I happened to be a top pilot at the time. I was watching them when they come and interview me, 60 Minutes to come and interview me, and they put me in the penthouse suite, and they put makeup on. I'd had this massive set and lights and cameras and all that sort of stuff, and make it so expensive, and then they come to the race. And I'm doing all that, and I still remember time. I remember there was a race where a big TV organization, they'd put a lot of money into this. They came to the race, and you could see the look on the cameraman's face of, what the hell is this?
What do I do with this?
Yeah, this looks pathetic. And I saw it time and time again, and that's when I started really pushing, going, guys, we need to stop fighting and working together, because the expectations of what the general public have are not being met by what we're giving them. And the fighting kept on continuing, and I didn't see it improving. So I was like, okay, well, maybe the freestyle on the other side. But once again, I saw the whole topping, and the whole freestyle thing, doing tricks. I mean, there's only so many tricks that you can do, and things like that. And there's only so many extreme places that you can go before, where do you go next? And that's when I really started thinking, like the whole hype cycle thing that Chad Kappa talks about. It all rings true, and I totally agree with him. But the problem is that I started seeing the problem with, okay, now we're going to be dipping down again, but we also don't have the size industry to keep everything together. Yeah, it's like I remember one of the other things, I was talking to Tony Cake, when everyone talks about how many people out there in FPV. And one of the ways, like, people look at Google Translate, look at all the sales answer stuff, it's very hard to look at that. One of the interesting ways that we look at was we were able to get sales numbers for Fat Shark goggles. Now, not everyone has a Fat Shark pair of Fat Shark goggles, but you'll have to agree they have probably 80% market share, something like that.
Yeah.
So if you can extrapolate and use a little bit of your own teasing, you can get a pretty accurate number. Yeah, do some fudging there. You can get a pretty accurate number. And I remember back in 2017, we were looking at maybe 120,000 pilots worldwide active, and that's pretty small niche market.
Yeah, it is.
And yeah, so I started being on. That's when my whole mental side started, because I was like, what do I do now? Because I just saw the direction that Rotor Riot was starting to go was a direction that I was not happy with. That look, you just saw her, the actual owner of the high heel shoes.
There she is.
They're not mine. They're not mine.
Tell her I'll cut it out if she wants me to.
Yeah, no, she's fine. I was not happy with the direction that Rotor Riot was going. So when we first started Rotor Riot, we were told, want you to be you and unapologetically you. So long as you are not attacking other people and so forth, be you and don't apologize for it. That's what we were. And we also had a bit of charisma online, especially together. We had that spark. And I felt that people followed us not because of the extreme stuff that we were doing, but because of the journey and because of the entertainment and the friendship, the journey that we were following and so forth. And it turned from that to, hey, and the original idea was also, we're going to do cool shit and we're just going to entertain you. And if you're entertained, then we ask you to go to our store and support us. Buying stuff at our store will help us to support doing more stuff. Now, we're not going to shove product down your throat. We're going to put up stuff there that we believe in and that we use ourselves. And we hope that you'll support that. Now, for whatever reason, that changed from that to let's just get a lot of stuff and go to what turned into be the flight test method of the home shopping network of quads. Mm-hmm. And we're gonna test and we're gonna compare this because we've got lots of that product in the store. Not interested in that. Not doing that. Really don't care. And I mean that's just a generalization, but you get the feel of what I'm talking about.
Is there like a specific product that sticks out that y'all did that for?
Not particularly. It was nothing in particular, but it seemed to be more focused on the products than anything else. At times, that's not all the time, and I get it. Like times are tough when Kappa bought the Rotor Riot. You don't have as much money to throw in. You can't exactly go, hey, let's just take 5 pilots to Hawaii and fly around in Robinson helicopters and go to cool places. You can't do that. But at the same time, you don't need to do that. I remember at the height of Carlos, I said, dude, you could take a video footage of you going to the bathroom, taking a dump, and you get 40,000 views. Because they just love watching Carlos. And you get what I mean. It's not what they're doing. It's the journey and it's the charisma of the people. And we knew that. Like me and Steele were like a brother and sister. We hated one another being around, but we also knew that spark that we had on film worked. So we played it because it was natural. It wasn't forced. I just didn't like that. And the other thing that I personally, and today we still argue about this because he claims that it's not true. But what I disliked was the forced drama side of things. So Kappa has always said that drama is good for numbers, good or bad, because it gets you in the spotlight. So you'll see in some of these episodes and so forth, like you'll have the drama of a lost quad. Can you get it? And it's like all that sort of stuff. And that's great if it's natural, if it's real. But there were so many times there where we got into arguments where I was like, stop trying to force it. If it's there, it's there. That's great. But forcing it makes it unnatural.
So in terms of the forcing, is there any, like, going back to the specific again, is there like a specific instance you can point out that you think it was forced? Or
I'd have to go back. I can't give you anything. It's so many things, and a lot of the things tend to get cut out and things like that. But just a little niggling thing, going, no, I don't want that in there. Or hey, we can do this because it'll bring up this kind of drama. I'm going, no, stop trying to place the pieces so that drama will happen. Let it happen naturally. It's not a script, and that was sort of that we argued quite a bit on that, and. Rightly or wrongly, that's how I felt, and likewise, Chad Kappa has always said, I didn't do that, but it wasn't the way that I saw it, and I respect his opinion. But that's where, like, okay, well, you're the big dog there. This is the way that you want it, but I really don't want to be involved in something like that. And it all stems like I was stubborn. Chad Kappa's a stubborn guy. He's a real stubborn guy, but so am I. And it all stems down to I did 18 years at a job that I absolutely hated, where when the boss said jump, I said how high. And I was sick and tired of just doing it. And I went, you know what? When I do this, I'm going to do it my way. And I set up these are my set of morals and things that I won't go by. And I'm not going to go past them. I don't care. And I was stubborn. I wouldn't go past some of stuff. And I totally agree to this day. You don't go past but I had so many blockages. Right. And that's the whole perspective now has taught me, okay, these are the important ones that you don't budge on. You've got to understand that everyone's different, and you've got to realize, and you've got to respect that.
That's a really interesting topic there. What kind of, like, moral stands did you make at that point, and have you backed off some of them?
a big one for me, and it still holds true. And it creates a lot of drama when I talk about it, because maybe I'm misinterpreting it. Maybe people are misreading it. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. This is the wonderful thing about life. You continue to learn, is being honest and real. And people have heard me say, hate fake. So the person that you see on camera is the same person that you see on that you read on Facebook, the same person you see in real life, the same person that you that you spend the night in the house with, and so forth. That's only need to be one person. And I've hated the cameras on. Hey, we're going to be doing this. Cameras off. Now we're going to be a completely different person.
Right.
And I've seen that a lot in the industry. When you get to be behind the scenes, you get to see how people change. And I personally hate that. My shortcoming is to judging people for doing that. If you want to do that, that's great. But it's not me. I very much dislike that. And the whole sort of like, hey, I'll just do whatever I can to make it all work. And I guess to a degree, I've backed off on that. I've learnt that there's a personal side and that there's a business side, and you need to split that. So, and the other thing, which is the big thing that I learnt, was people being real around me and so forth. And this is the one thing where the whole beef that me and Steele had for a while there, and there's still things that I'm not happy with what Steele did and so forth, and we'll never agree, but that you don't have to agree. That's the wonderful thing about life. My shortcoming with Steele was I treated him as a friend and expected him to treat me as a friend constantly, where he's the kind of guy where it's more business than friendship. And as a businessman, if you need to step on someone's toes to make business work, then you'll step on their toes. It's just business. My shortcoming was I expected him to be a friend first and a business person second. He never said that he was going to be a friend first. And that was my shortcoming. And one of the guys that I know quite well, Kevin, not Kevin Doherty, a different Kevin. You know who you are, Kevin. He sat me down. I was actually over in Los Angeles, and he sat me down, and we were at a coffee club or whatever, and he just said, "This is where you've gone wrong." He said, "You've made an expectation on someone of which you had no right to make an expectation because they never claimed that." And that was a big thing that I had to back up on and realize my own mistakes.
I will be completely honest. Interviewing Chad Nowak has always been a goal, but it's a goal because it's personal. Chad is the guy that got me into FPV. Watching his Hawaii Balls video is the one thing that hooked me and never let me go. To be able to talk to him in this manner was awesome, and I'd like to thank him for coming on. In the next episode, you get to hear about Chad's feelings about the other Rotor Riot folks, including Steele, Tommy, Charpu, and also, most importantly, to a lot of people, Chad Capper. I'd like to take a moment to thank my sponsor, Rotor Riot. Rotor Riot obviously is well known to you if you're watching this video. Chad Nowak is one of the original Rotor Riot pilots. And some of the things that they have done are groundbreaking and awesome and amazing. Just remember that you can get 10% off any Hype Train purchase using the code ROTOROLLINS at the Rotor Riot site. I'd also like to take a moment to thank my patrons. My patrons help keep this thing going. They give me encouragement. They love the content that I put out, and I would like to offer you the opportunity to become a patron. Check the description below where you can get a link to not only Rotor Riot, but you can also get a link to my Patreon. My patrons get an audio-only full edit of the entire interview dropped the day or the day before the interview airs. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.